Hi everyone! It's been a very long time since I've updated YouTube. I'm so sorry. I am in Tokyo now visiting my parents, so I have a bit of free time and good internet connection. So, my last video was question and answer time. Well, question time, and this time it's answer time. So, I just typed out your questions here, so I'll be reading them and then just answering in order of how I got them. So, Ali Mametraimov asks, what do you think about Russian? Do you like it and do you want to learn it? Niet, I do not really want to learn Russian. My interest is in Asian languages. However, I did teach myself how to read and write Cyrillic script, all of which I have forgotten. So I don't think I'm interested in it. There's nothing wrong with Russian, but just a personal interest. I don't think I will learn it, but maybe I will learn the script and we'll see. Yeah, it's not a priority for me. Okay, next. Peregrine Commando 99 says, when you start learning a language, what steps do you start with to become conversational? Well, as many of you have probably heard from other polyglots, use it as soon as you can. The little bit that you know from learning a language at the beginning, you should use it on people around you, people who speak the language, because that's how kids learn to speak. Kids don't sit and study from books, they just keep talking, and that's how you pick up a language. In order to become conversational, I guess you should also watch things like TV and dramas, so that you can hear the nuances of conversation and the words they use, because sometimes what you learn in a textbook isn't how people actually speak. So, yeah, speak a lot. I know it's difficult if you have lack of vocabulary, so obviously then you should, sit down and study some vocabulary, whether it be online or from a book, and try making your own sentences beforehand. And in emergency situations, if you need to talk to someone for something, and in their language, and you really don't know the language, then try and get a few sample sentences beforehand, write them down, and study their structure and grammar and the words in them, so that you at least have a base, if that makes sense. But, don't go around memorizing phrases, because that's not going to get you anywhere. Okay, who is next? Kapski NL says, make a Japanese video. Okay, I have this laptop, as you can see, so I can't really carry the laptop around in Tokyo, but I did get a camera today, actually, so perhaps I will consider filming some things around Japan. So it's not that I don't want to, it's just difficult with a laptop. Harumi says, what do I think about language education in schools, and does it work? I don't think it works if its purpose is to get you to speak a language fluently. If its purpose is just to be another subject in which you can get good grades in, then fine, that's fine. But for example, in South Africa, we can choose, for foreign languages, we can choose French and German at most schools, and people who graduate there are not fluent in those languages unless it's a big interest and they plan to study overseas. So I don't think the way language education in schools works, I don't think it's taken seriously if you want to be fluent and on a business level. And if I take the example of Korea and Japan, how their English education works, and I'm saying this with utmost respect to those people, people in Korea and Japan who learn English at school and graduate from just Japanese and Korean curriculum English, they really cannot speak English. They can understand and read and write really well, but speaking is very difficult. And that is, I speak from personal experience. I visited hagwons and schools in Korea, and I went to their English classes there. The teacher cannot speak English. You don't get taught anything. You get a test which you have, like a worksheet which you have to answer, and the questions on the worksheet have wrong English grammar, and also exams and tests, and the textbooks you learn from have wrong English grammar. I sat there correcting my friend's Korean English learning textbook. So in that manner, I think Korean English language education lacks a little bit in terms of providing quality English education, and this is not for everyone. This is just what I've experienced from the very few books and schools that I've been to And I think the focus there is both Korea and Japan. I'm not sure about other Asian countries. This is just what I know. The focus is very much on grammar, and reading and writing. And while I'm here in Japan, I like to look at the English books in their bookstores. And the example paragraphs they give are so weird and complicated. It's like topics you'll never talk about. I don't know, volcanoes or I don't know, types of cheese and factories and stuff. You don't talk about that in daily conversation. So that type of education doesn't serve a purpose to help you communicate in daily life. I mean, if you're in Tokyo and you go up to some person on the street and you say, like, excuse me, please, can you help me find the station? They'll be like, whoa, what? But if you write it down, they'll understand you perfectly. So in terms of communicating and speaking, I do think that English education lacks a little bit there in terms of focusing too much on reading, writing, and comprehension. I hope that answered the question, and I do not mean offense to anyone or curriculums. That's just what I've experienced. Oh, and Harumi also asks, what do you think of the growing dominance of English as lingua franca? I don't think it is growing, from what I think. I do think other languages, Spanish, Mandarin, French, are growing in interest. However, English has always been a lingua franca, as you say, and I don't really have an opinion about it. That's sort of just the way things have been. I'm not a huge fan of English. And I don't like English, it's very boring. So that's just the way it is. I don't know, it would be cool if something like Esperanto was a lingua franca. And lastly, she says, how do you review all your languages and keep your skills fresh? That depends on the language and its personal importance to me. For French, unfortunately, I have forgotten so much of my French. It's definitely an important language and I really like French, but I just haven't had the time. So I'm not perfect and I don't have time to review French. However, in terms of Korean and Japanese, luckily I have lots of Korean friends, pen pals and real life friends. So having someone to talk to in the language really helps keeping it up. And also watching dramas, listening to music, is a great way to keep the language in your mind every day. If you go to school and you just listen to music in the language, strangely, the more you listen, it kind of seems like the more you understand. Or a song I'll listen to 2 weeks ago and I'll listen to today, I'll understand more. I don't know if the lyrics, if I've been reading them somewhere else, but I do think that's also a way of practicing and keeping a language alive. And if a language is important to you, you should just make time and sit down with a book or a movie, and you just have to make time if it's important for you. I know it's very difficult to maintain them all, so I think it's what do you call it? Motivation, self-discipline to keep those languages alive. Opal Hohn says, what are your thoughts on learning a language through a language other than your native language is? I think it's great. It's a good way to, like the previous question asked, good way to keep the languages alive. I am using a Japanese textbook to learn English and Mandarin at the same time. And I'm using Korean books to learn Vietnamese, Thai, Mongolian, and Japanese, and Mandarin. Yes. And since I have a base in Korean and a tiny base in Japanese, I'm able to use those books. And I find their quality better, and the book layout is much cuter and full of nice colors and stuff. So I think that's a great way. I don't see anything wrong with that, and I do recommend learning languages through other languages to keep them alive. slxdragon says, what other languages do you plan to learn in the future, and how long does it roughly take for you to be conversationally fluent in a language? Okay, what other language do I plan to learn in the future? I think I have a list of a few that I am learning and want to speak, so I don't know if I should mention them all. Okay, let me just start from what I can speak. I'll go from order of fluency until the last ones will probably be ones that I still want to learn. English, Afrikaans, Korean, I don't know if French is good anymore, Japanese, Mandarin, and then I really want to keep learning Vietnamese, Thai, Mongolian, Hindi, Arabic, Indonesian, Malaysian, Tibetan. I think that's it. Urdu, perhaps I'd like to learn Urdu again. I had to take it at school in like grade 2, so I don't remember much. As you can see, I'm very interested in Asian languages, and especially languages that have their own scripts. So yeah, that's just dreaming. I don't know if I have time for all of those. And how long does it take to be roughly conversational in the language, conversationally fluent? That really depends on the language itself. Mandarin is so easy, the grammar is super easy, pronunciation is a little bit difficult, but that took me about 6 months to have a really basic conversation, but I'm not conversationally fluent. So maybe that's not a good answer. Korean took me about 2 to 3 years to be at a comfortable level where I don't have to be like, oh, I'm so scared to talk to this person, I don't know if I'll not understand. Japanese I've been learning for about 2 years, and I can help myself in public in a few situations, but I can't comfortably talk. Like, I mean, if I meet someone and we are having coffee, sometimes there are some awkward silences. So maybe 2 to 3 years. It depends on the person if you want to be conversationally fluent. So it depends on the language and the person. Relit Sadud also asks what other languages I plan on learning. So there you go. And he also asked what books I recommend for language learning. Living Language, out of the list of books that he gave, I think is really great because of their audio. I haven't used Assimil, I think. I think I used them for Mandarin. They're okay. Yes, personal choice. Out of the list you gave, I do like Living Language a lot because of the audio. And I buy books from other countries and other bookstores which aren't really, big international brands. I think I'll cut this video and then I'll show you some of the books I've bought here. And I think it's really good if you do have the opportunity to travel to buy books in the country where you are. Opal Hohn asks, what are your thoughts on people learning a language when they have no intention of interacting with the culture on a regular basis? Well, by no intention do you mean they don't want to interact with the culture? Because that's kind of odd. Why would you learn the language? But if no interaction means you're not able to interact because of lack of resources, or the speakers live in another country and you just can't go there, it's fine. Learn a language if you want to. I mean, you don't need to be immersed in a culture to learn a language. However, as you learn a language, you get to know the culture. So there's that benefit. I notice this a lot in polyglots, that they learn languages for which they have no real use for and never plan on using it except for vacation. Well, that's fine. If you want to learn a language just because it's fun and you get a kick out of learning languages, if you want to use it on your own, like writing in your diary, learn it. You don't need to use it with people. You don't need to go on holiday to use it. I think it's fine if, that's what some conlangers do. You make your own language and you don't have to use it. You can write notes to yourself in it. It's fine. It's a hobby. You don't have to use it with people. Yeah. Also, somewhat related, do you ever wish that you learned a handful of languages, say 3 to 4, with absolute mastery, rather than learn a large amount with the prospect of never learning most of them past a formal level? That is an interesting question. The more the merrier. I'm just joking. I think it's very good to have a little bit of a base in lots of languages. At least if you could ask someone like, can I help you? Or, if someone asks you, where's the station? You can answer in a few different languages. And you can't move past a conversation like that. It's fine, at least you've helped them. Even just saying hello in someone else's language is really a great way of making friends, even if you have to continue speaking in, English or whatever. I think it's better to have a basic base in a lot of languages if your aim is socialization. If your aim is something like translation or business, then obviously it's better to have mastery in 3 or 4. So this is, again, a personal choice, so depends on the person, I'd say. And finally, if you could have been born in any culture other than your own, what would it be? Really? I have to choose? I don't know! That is a really, really tough question. I mean, there are some cultures I love, Korean and Japanese culture, but there are ups and downs to those, which I won't go into too much detail now, but I'm pretty happy being South African. My country's not perfect, but the people are nice. I don't know. I'm so sorry, I really can't answer that question. Okay, this person's name has a lot of diacritics. Holy Konni says, do you have any tips for learning Afrikaans? What materials could I use to practice? I'm now listening to Die Antwoord, Jack Parrow, and reading Wikipedia. Number 1, do not listen to Die Antwoord. Number 2, do not listen to Jack Parrow. Their use of Afrikaans is disgusting and vulgar. But you can do what you want, just I would not recommend them. How about listening to some other music? Yes. Afrikaans is quite a... I mean, we don't make a lot of mass media pop culture outside of our own country, so I can't really recommend TV shows and stuff that you'd be able to find easily. My best bet is that you should find a pen pal who speaks Afrikaans and just try and chat to them. Learn as much basic grammar that you can, and with that, see if you can communicate with someone like a pen pal. The website italki.com or lang-8.com are quite nice websites where you can meet people who speak the language. Or just something like, I don't know, penpalworld.com. I'm sure you can find South Africans who speak Afrikaans. Resources and materials. Everyone always asks me this about Afrikaans, but unfortunately, because I'm a native speaker, I don't look for these resources, so I really don't know. However, I have seen... Is it now Living Language or Teach Yourself Afrikaans. And Teach Yourself is a very good series, so if you can find Teach Yourself, I would recommend that. And I'm sorry, I really don't know a lot about Afrikaans materials. Sorry I couldn't help you a lot. Reading Wikipedia in Afrikaans seems like a very good idea. I would recommend you keep doing that. And how about seeing what you can take from there? How about rewriting an article and studying the grammar from that, or highlighting words and making a vocabulary list? Just take as much as you can out of that little bit. And Gregor C says list Japanese resources. Okay, apart from the textbooks that I have bought overseas, the good textbooks are the Minna no Nihongo series and the Japanese for Busy People. Those are probably the most famous and internationally available. I've been wanting to eat this, sorry. So, if you can find those textbooks, good. And I enjoy searching websites and stuff. For example, if you just do a simple Tumblr search or, I don't know, Google search, learn Japanese, you'll find a bunch of blogs and websites. I really like reading people's blogs. There are blogs such as Japanese Word a Day or Japanese Phrase a Day, and I like checking those. Yeah, in terms of other resources, it depends on your level, but I like reading a book in English and then buying the Japanese version, and then reading that and going through the words there and circling the ones I don't know and studying from that. And since I'm in Tokyo, they have a lot of free papers and newspapers and stuff that you can just take on the street. And I like to take those and study from them, like I said, highlighting the words and rereading and writing the sentences. So you can kind of make your own resources in that way, if you do have those available. If you're not in Japan, like I said, for other people, you can find a pen pal or a website. Other resources, you just have to keep looking online if you don't have a bookshop that sells Japanese books. In South Africa, the Japanese embassy has a few books that you can check out and study from. So maybe your country has a Japanese embassy where you can get some resources for free as well. So try that out. And on YouTube, there's the Japan Society. They make really good language videos, so you should look them up. How many kanji do you know? I don't know, I don't count. If I'm reading, I don't know, like chatting online with someone, maybe every 5th or 6th sentence there's like 2 kanji, I don't know. Newspapers and books are a different story. That's like, I don't know anything. I don't keep count. I really hate books that are like, study 10 kanji a day and in a month you will know so many. I just kind of learn it as I go on, so I really haven't kept count, sorry. But I'm really not that great with kanji, it's tricky. Olka says, do you believe Korean and Japanese are as useful as Mandarin? Also, how would you compare their grammar structures? Useful. It depends what you use them for. If you want friends or travel or fun. If you want to watch Korean dramas, it's more useful than Mandarin to learn Korean. If you're doing business, I guess Mandarin is good, but depends on your business. It completely depends on what you use the language for. For me, Korean has opened the most doors, and Japanese has opened a lot of doors as well, because I'm interested in Japanese design, and I could, email people asking for internships in Japanese. So it depends on what you use the language for. I wouldn't say learning Korean is useless because they have less speakers than Mandarin. If you're interested in Korean dramas, culture, music, learning Korean is really great to get immersed into that. Grammar structures. Mandarin is very similar to English, subject, verb, object, whereas Korean and Japanese have very, very similar grammar structures, and some words are very same as well. Very similar. So learning Korean and Japanese at the same time or after each other is not too difficult because their grammar structures are very easy. Mandarin, very easy. Mandarin is very simple, so if you're an English speaker, that's a good language to learn. Metal of Heaven 777 says, what resources do you use for learning Korean? TalkToMeInKorean.com is the #1 resource I would recommend to everyone. They have free PDFs and videos updated very often. And textbooks. There's a website called Twochois, TWOCHOIS.com, and you can order books from them, and they ship internationally. So if you browse through their books there, you can get a lot of nice resources. Then there are some other blogs, KoreanNotebook.com and HangukDrama.com. They have resource lists as well in their blog. So I like looking at people's blogs and finding that. If you just do a few Google searches, you can get a few good resources. In terms of university textbooks, Yonsei Hangugo is very good, and Ehwa Daehakyo's Ehwa Hangugo series is quite good as well. If you can get those textbooks, I'm sure you can order them from Tusha as well. And Metal of Heaven also asks, do you ever unintentionally mix Korean and Japanese? Only with words that are very similar, like shashin and sajin both mean picture in Japanese and Korean relatively. So sometimes in Japan I'm like, sajin o totemo ii desu ka? I'm like, no! Shashin! So similar words I mess up. I wouldn't go speak Korean to a Japanese person. It's a very completely different language, so you just get into the mindset of the one and you can speak it. He says, I have a hard time getting a Korean sentence out without Japanese in it. Yes, that can happen. You just need to put yourself in the mindset. I noticed if I speak a lot of Japanese with someone and then I speak to a Korean person after that, I sometimes switch to Japanese if they understand it. So, you have to get into the mindset. If you know you're going to be speaking Korean, get yourself into the mood, listen to Korean music, watch Korean dramas, and then go speak Korean. Last question is Japanese. Wow, ありがとうございます。お待たせいたしました。You have waited so long for me to answer. リンディさん、英語ちょっとできませんから日本語で尋ねると思います。はい、大丈夫です。将来には日本で留学するつもりありますか？もしかしたら何ヶ月で滞在するのですか？応援しているよ。ありがとうございます。じゃあ、両親は東京に住んでいますので、休みの時、いつも東京に来ますので、休みでいつもここにいますので、留学するつもりあんまりないんですけど、よく来ますので、なんていうかな、日本の文化とか、experience, feel ができますので大丈夫だと思いますけど、南アフリカでグラフィックデザインの勉強中ですけど、グラフィックデザインすれば留学するのはとても難しいだと思います。ポートフォリオとか必要ですから、留学はよくできないんだと思いますね。留学、多分、graduate 南アフリカで学校終わって、多分日本に来てインターンシップと働くすることをしたいんですね。留学は今までできないと思いますね。旅行とインターンシップしか、インターンシップだけできると思います。はい。じゃあ、日本語は全然できませんですね。すみません。じゃあ、インターンシップしたいんですけど、留学は No ですね。はい。じゃあ、ありがとうございました。すみません。Okay, so that is it for this video. It is much longer than I thought. Sorry if I rambled, and I'm no language pro or expert, so I hope I could answer from personal experience. So most people wanted to know, resources and stuff. You just have to keep searching online. There are lots of free things online if you dig deeper and stuff. Tumblr is a very good place to start. Tumblr has a lot of language fans. So, thank you for the questions, and yes. Bye, everyone.